Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of the Facade Focus podcast, where I aim to connect the global facade industry by sharing knowledge and experience for others to learn from. Over the coming weeks, I'll be interviewing leaders and industry experts across the globe to discuss common problems people are facing and explore the innovative solutions that will help you in your learning journey. This week, I'm interviewing CEO and President of Wheaton Sprague Building Envelope, Mr. John Wheaton. He's the host of the Creating Structure podcast and, by his own term, part-time blogger. He co-founded Wheaton Sprague back in 1994 and is a licensed professional engineer in 42 states. His business specializes in building envelope consulting as well as engineering. Now, we get into the problems that he sees in the facade industry and how he's going about solving them and what impact that has on the industry. John's pretty active across LinkedIn and X, so go and give him a follow and get involved in his conversations. Now, quick shout out to our sponsors of the podcast, which is Architectural Glass and Aluminum, otherwise known as AGA. They're a leader in custom curtain wall systems and have been providing tailored glazing solutions for over 55 years now. More impressively to me, they're one of the biggest employee-owned businesses in the country, and they've got a phenomenal team that buys into their ethos of collaboration and craftsmanship. I'm delighted to have them as a partner of the pod, so a big shout out to the team over there. In the meantime, let's get into this week's episode of Facade Focus podcast with Mr. John Wheaton. John Wheaton, welcome to the Facade Focus podcast. Good to have you.
It's a pleasure to be with you.
Awesome. So, I've given you a bit of an introduction already, but just in your own words, tell us a little bit about yourself, your business, and where you sit in the ecosystem of the facade industry.
Well, I've been around a while, working in this engineering and design field since 1984. 83 when I graduated from Akron U, but since 84, I've been in the curtain wall, facade, building, science, engineering field.
Yeah.
So where do I sit in the ecosystem? Was that the question?
Yeah. Where does Wheaton and Sprague, where do you guys sit within the ecosystem?
So we're a design engineering consulting company that services a variety of client types. We're 100% professional services. We don't do any product, but we support products and we support installation and we support building evaluations. So we do building envelope consulting and building envelope engineering in all forms. So that includes, supporting architects, owners, contractors, construction managers, lawyers, insurance companies on the consultative side of all types of facade and cladding, whether brick or vinyl windows or high performance curtain wall, monumental curtain wall. And on the engineering side, typically supporting a very strong group of glazing subcontractors and then other manufacturers like panel manufacturers, curtain wall suppliers and manufacturers doing engineering, thermal analysis, design, etc.
Great. And would you say that the glazing subs are the companies that you generally partner with more?
I would say prior to 2020, that was the case throughout our history, but we are primarily now a building envelope consulting company, but also very much a building envelope engineering company. So in our engineering group, which is 40 to 50% of our revenue, we're supporting glazing subcontractors and we love working with them. We're also supporting a lot of panel fabricators because there's many panels on many job types, not just office towers, which are few and far between right now. So glazing subcontractors, that's a big deal, but it's just one of our client demographics.
Absolutely. Cool. And then I noticed, obviously, I've listened to a few episodes in the past, but you're also the host of your own podcast as well, Creating Structure on a sabbatical at the moment. But what gave you the inspiration to start that?
Whether people like to hear me or not, or read what I write or not, I've always felt a drive to communicate, when I was younger, whether I was writing songs or poetry or getting into the engineering field, I can't not communicate. And that can be annoying at times. I'm sure there's people that say, I wish he wouldn't communicate.
Yeah. Well, it's their choice. It's their choice. It's their choice.
Right. I don't understand what he's
Yeah.
communicating. But yeah, I started the podcast, and my son actually has a 6-month like journeyman certificate from Radio Recording Schools of America. So he was my primary. He's the one that set up Buzzsprout and all the other things.
You're giving your secrets away here, John. You take credit for that.
Well, I said, like, I don't know what to do. And he's like, I'll tell you what to do. And he scoped it all out. And then later I used BVS when he moved on to a different space. I used BVS Productions and Dan Portick. But yeah, unfortunately, I'm on a sabbatical right now. A lot of it was due to the reorganization of our company and just having to really work heavily as an operator and as a doer seller. So I'm on a sabbatical. I think I was providentially supposed to pause at episode 49, because 49 is not a good number to end on. It can't end on 49. So I'll get back at it someday, and I enjoy it.
Excellent. Yeah, as I said, I've listened to a few. I've obviously follow you on all the social platforms, and yeah, I can absolutely say that you love to communicate. And yeah, it's been great following your journey, and obviously saw the stuff that you were posting about the pivot in the business over the last year or two, and obviously there's a huge journey ahead, so which I'm sure is exciting. But tell us a little bit about, the whole Facade Focus podcast for me is all about sharing knowledge and, being able to help people not just in your local city, state, country, but, we've got silos all over the world here where, we're all trying to improve, whether it be, from a design engineering perspective, whether it be tightening up supply chain, there's all sorts of problems that we're all facing, but in different parts of the world. So we're going to get into a problem that you see in the industry from your perspective, which is a unique one, and how you go about solving that, and then what the outcome is for the industry. So tell us a little bit about a problem that you see in the industry from the Wheaton and Sprague perspective.
Well, there's certainly, as I mentioned before we started recording, there's 100 problems with me. There's 100 problems with any business. There's 1,000 problems in any market and industry. But the one that, there's many to work on, which is why it's always exciting. But the one that really always trips my trigger that I think will never go away, and there's always constant room for improvement, is I think it is, and it has been, all these compartmentalized assumptions, and it hasn't gotten any better. Actually, with technology, I would say it's probably gotten better in some ways and worse in others. But there's this throw it over the wall mentality. If I just check that box, if I just throw the submittal over to the architect and then they throw it back. And then, so I think it's these interconnected silos, these compartmentalized things, these assumptions of who's going to do what when.
Yeah.
And a lack of clarity. And I can tell you, even though we have all kinds of flaws and issues, the operational clarity that one gets when they implement a business operating system like EOS, it's good and it's bad, because what it does is it made me realize how subjective I've been many times.
Yep.
And as you drive to clarity, you realize how much more succinct and clear I need to be, and we need to be, into driving outcomes, even simple things as showing up on time for virtual meetings. But anyway, so I think there's a lot of assumptions, a lot of subjectiveness, and still more throw it over the wall, lack of integration, lack of connectivity. And it really requires a tremendous amount of project management and trying to kick down those barriers and drive collaboration. So I always say, hey, listen, like if we're working with a client, I'm like, where are you on this assignment? We're your partner. We're your bolt-on consultant or technical consultant or engineering department, and we want to be rowing in the same boat. So let's pull ourselves into each other's reality and have shared decisions, because if we don't, it's going to end it's not going to end where we want it to end.
Yeah, you're trying to be on the same team rather than sort of, two silos operating independently, trying to get outcomes for for yourselves. Where do you think that comes from?
Well, and let me say, I say this vulnerably too, because people know, I know a lot of people and a lot of people know me, and some listening may go, oh yeah, well, I can point to a few jobs where you didn't do that, John, or somebody saying, well, that's why we don't work together because you guys didn't deliver to that.
Sure.
Fine, whatever.
Yeah.
That's great. It is what it is. It doesn't mean the problem doesn't exist. And it also doesn't mean I have the right solution for it, because the only way I know how to solve it is to continue with the effort of understanding and identifying each client's unique values, each project's unique value proposition and needs, and then working within a core value system that attempts to deliver that. So, like, our core values are communication, integrity, collaboration, client conscious, and capability. Capability should be a given, but I find that a lot of times folks who are purchasing engineering services think, well, all consulting and engineering services must be the same, so I'll buy the cheapest one. And that person may not even have the capability one needs, but it looks good when you check the box on your, IT platform for project management or whatever. So we try to work in that manner best we can. One of the things that I think are big benefits are weekly huddles or bi-weekly huddles with client, even if it's 15 minutes, even if there's nothing to talk about. So we really require a kickoff meeting for our sake and their sake, and we work to have weekly huddles. And without it, I don't know how you stay on track.
And you're organizing that?
I always tell my people, listen, don't expect anyone else to communicate. Hey, like it or not, I think fundamentally, most people aren't good communicators, or they assume too many things in a technical and construction field in particular. I'm not talking about, I don't work for Random and Penguin Books. I work in an engineering sector. Yeah. So I always say, listen, don't assume let's eliminate the variable of us not being proactive. If they don't respond, so be it. But yeah, we organize the huddles. We organize the collaborations. Now, a client may say, hey, we have a page turn session we want you to do. Great. My answer, even if it's not in our scope, 100% of the time, we will attend a page turn session with the architect and the contractor and you 100% of the time, because it helps everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, I think as well with communication, I think sometimes you build it up in your head that, you're maybe over communicating, or maybe you end up nagging someone, or, pestering, whatever word you want to say. Sometimes it's just innocent, where people have just got a load of things going on. They've got so many other to-do action points, anything, to do with their business, their personal life. And sometimes it just goes down the list, and they need a little, a reminder, or, hey, look, let's get together next week, just to ensure that things are still moving in the direction we agreed last. So no, I totally get that. It's interesting. I don't know where, I can't remember the name for it now. I want to say it's something like, and I'll be corrected on this in the comments for sure, but it's like a one contract. I was sat down with someone about 6 months ago, and they showed me, it might be IPD or something, like an integrated project delivery contract. Does that sound,
So two things. First of all, back on the previous thing, I wanted to say, because I fall victim to this too. Just because you click send on an email doesn't mean you've communicated and gotten your message across.
100%.
We have this thing we can call people with. I fall victim to this too. That's why I like to have the mobile number of all my clients, because I won't use it to annoy them at night. I'll text them during the day like, hey, can we talk? Anyway, but IPD is a very sincere attempt. We've worked on at least one IPD job. It's a very sincere attempt to kick down the walls and truly drive collaboration. So
how did that go, by the way? How did that IPD project go? Because I imagine there must have been some issues and some teething problems with that.
I'll tell you about it in a minute, and you'll be like, oh, yeah, because it was a while ago.
Yeah.
There's a company called Bolt Construction, BOLTD, in the United States, and they're big on IPD. And Welty Bolt did a job here for Akron Children's Hospital years ago now, probably 15 or 20 years ago, and it was IPD. Integrated project delivery basically goes to the owner and says, here's your budget. We will be at or within that budget. And through IPD, and literally everybody's in the same room. There's no office walls. Everybody's in the same room. The subs are not only invited, but expected. And everybody owns like this budget, and everybody's working together to try to bring an integrated project. It's not a design bid build, and it's not a design build. It's an integrated project delivery. It has its own contractual form. So you've got traditional construction that has it. In the end, it's all about contractual, because people will say, well, this is a design build job. And I'm like, that's not what the contract says. If you're saying it's a design assist job, every job is a design assist job, but not every job is a contractual design build or design bid build. But IPD is a contractual piece of work. You in the audience will chuckle. We weren't very mature back then and completely naive to IPD. I showed up to a meeting and I absolutely loved it, but the personnel I had involved, it was like square pegs in round holes. They were trying to drive to other conclusions. They actually told us that they didn't think they would need a building envelope consulting services on that project. So we only got part way into it, and they appreciated what we did till then, but I didn't get to finish the job. So there you go.
No. So I can't ask any more questions on it.
Well, you could, but I would only have conjecture. I like the whole idea of IPD, but IPD still doesn't eliminate.
Is it like is it almost like setting up like a JV project company that you're basically seconding your staff to? Is it an hourly, are you basically putting, X amount of staff on that project and they're just working on that project until it's complete? Are they doing X amount of work on that, but also still doing work on other client projects? How does that actually materialize?
I can't speak to the detailed operational side.
Sure.
I know that contractual integrated project delivery is beautiful in its essence because the contract we were working within actually stated the core value and goal of the client, the why on that job, and what everybody was working together within and expected to do. But that was my point, is that whether it's IPD or design build or design assist, the essence of anything still you can game any system. The essence of it and the essence of the humans involved have to have the understanding and the why to be able to go, okay, I know what they're driving for. Let's do this. And I think you have to get the right people involved. So I don't feel like I have enough expertise to really wax eloquently on IPD, but I think it's attempting to solve a lot of the compartmentalization, throw it over the wall issues.
Yeah. Well, that I love the segue into the next question then on the solution then. So you obviously highlighted there, collaboration, sort of operating in silos, and, as a consulting firm, what strategies have you put in place in order to overcome those issues? And I suppose a follow-on from that, when you've actually implemented the strategies, what roadblocks do you come across with each stakeholder?
Yeah. Well, let me talk about it from two perspectives, if I could. One on the building envelope consulting side, and one on the building envelope engineering side. I find this less of an issue on the building envelope consulting side because we're typically working with the stakeholder at or closer to the top of the food chain, the decision-making supply chain, shall I say so, the owner or if we're working with an owner or an architect, you together have the attention of all the other stakeholders. And I find that there's more ability to influence that mentality, that collaborative mentality there. When it's on the back end, when it's on the forensic and litigation side, for instance, you wind up with some of the same problems because you have various parties representing various interests, supporting various risk management claims and needs, and whether you're the plaintiff or the defendant. And so that side, you're more of an informer than you are an informer expert instead of kind of a project influencer.
Yeah.
So on the consulting side, we still work to stay very close to our client as the decision maker and make strong recommendations to them. Ultimately, we can't change our DNA too much, nor can we change the DNA of the client. So, on the very top end, I guess to any company, and it's not market or industry dependent, having a client demographic, a client psychographic that says, for us, this is the ideal client type. Not just somebody with a reasonable checkbook, but somebody who is kind of like these things. Like I always tell people, I tell clients or I tell potential candidates here, our core values are what they are. We don't support them perfectly because we're human. But if you don't like to communicate and you prefer back end confrontation and you don't like to collaborate, that's fine. Just don't work here.
Yeah.
We won't be a good fit with you. So, it goes down through every chain. On the building envelope engineering side, let's say the delegated design and engineering side is the structural engineer or is the system designer or the shop drawer. I mean, they're really simple strategies. A kickoff meeting 100% of the time with the client,
Yep.
weekly or bi-weekly huddles, depending on the size and cadence and volume of the project, submittal logs, RFI logs, things like that. Everybody has the same tools, but I talk about innovation, and there's two types of innovation. There's technical innovation and product innovation, but people forget that innovation applies to everything, including project management and project coordination and client relationship management and client development and project oversight. So I think just having a proactive mentality is good. Some of the barriers some of our own, when we get busy, sometimes we miss those things.
Sure.
Some clients they don't have the time, or they're scattered, or they're spread too lean. It's very difficult to get the attention of the architect, and that's not a criticism of architects, but I'm a big proponent of, hey, we want to help the architect with our glazing subcontractor partner to achieve their vision. And so, when you submit and kind of throw it over the wall, and then 6 weeks later you get a set of comments back, it doesn't really have a lot of meaning. So It's best to try to integrate that best you can. So, everybody, like you say, people are busy, people get tired, jobs, sometimes don't go great. And I do want to make one other quick comment. Just because you have Procore or buildingconnected.com, that doesn't mean it's a panacea. In fact, if let's say you're a contractor and you say, well, everything's on Procore, we don't as the technical consultants in any area, we don't want to have to go into Procore and try to figure out who uploaded what when. There has to be, because a lot of times you'll just get a signal that all these documents have been uploaded. So technology platforms are not a panacea. In fact, technology makes good great, or it makes bad horrible. So you got to manage it.
Yeah. Technology in the wrong hands is just, it's a bad recipe. But is that down to the way that they're using it? You get a dump of documents, you get a notification on your email saying, hey, look, X person uploaded a bunch of stuff for you to go and look at. Is that the way they're using the tool? Because, the tool is the tool. Maybe there could be some improvements on user experience. Maybe there's some functions that would make it easier to navigate. But would you say the issue is the tool, or just the way that these people are sort of, throwing it in there and saying, well, this is what we use the tool for. I'm going to throw those documents in and that's my job done.
Yeah, I think it's on both sides. I mean, like all the people listening, I'm sure, there's multiple technology platforms. So you have to learn each platform. The tools all have some limitations, but the tools are all better than an individual human managing large volumes. So I think it comes down to not assuming anything, but trying to say, how can we best utilize this tool with these subs and these partners to achieve what it is we want, and recognizing that it's not perfect. Like you said, we're all busy. It's all an attention grab, and people don't know if they don't know. In fact, most of these strategies are not profound. Do we use technical strategies? Sure. Do we try to do technical things like, like Bluebeam Studio collaborations? Great thing to do. Virtual meetings, great thing to do.
John, what do you mean, John? What do you mean by a Bluebeam Studio collaboration? What does that mean in its?
I mean, you can get on a virtual meeting and you can have a Bluebeam session where you've got a PDF document, and people are literally working, reviewing, doing a page turn on screen in Bluebeam Studio and marking up and writing, and hey, let me have the screen. Let me have, so.
Right. Yeah.
Those kind of things are helpful. And I guess when I'm speaking about this, I'm saying, if all the technical things are equal, if, if the capability is a minimum of what it needs to be by the collaborating partner or the client, then technology can improve if it's used
Yeah.
right. And then mindsets and strategies for improved communication and collaboration can help too.
Yeah.
And landing on that is a good thing. And it takes a minute or a while on either in a client relationship or on a project to work it out.
Yeah. And would you say from a obviously use Bluebeam there as a good example. If the businesses you're working with could use the, let's take Procore for example, if they could use it better and more in line with that would make their own lives easier, but also your life easier as well. Do you think there's room for improvement on how they use it first and foremost?
I think there's room for improvement with everything. All of us do.
Sure.
Of course.
So is that an educational standpoint? Is that something?
Yeah. Have a
a
conversation and say, I've got all these documents. Which ones do you need me to really upload? Instead of I just uploaded 3,760 pages of specs, but you only need article, 4,000, 7,000, and 8,000 in the specs.
And should they already know that, or is that something you could communicate before?
Yeah,
well, they would need to send you that.
Right.
Is that
I would never want to presume,
Yeah.
On someone. We all do at some point, but yeah, say, hey, these are the only things we'll need.
Yeah.
But if in doubt, load more, and then we'll have a conversation. So.
And is that generally done through like a phone call, an email where you ping that over to them, and then maybe when they do it, they forget about the email, they just upload all of it? Or is it just the case of, hey, look, it's just easier if I just dump all this into one space and you go and figure it out?
I don't know. I mean, I think, again, it's certainly email. I mean, you see a lot of criticism of email on LinkedIn and on X and on other platforms.
Yeah.
Our world, our field, I don't know about aerospace and I don't know about automotive, but in construction and design, we all still use email as a primary communication tool. And there is a nice piece to it in that I can get to that email when I'm ready, not when you think you need me to. And I assume that if you're sending me an email that I can get to that, put a deadline on, hey, if you could get to this by. But I find other clients are like, hey, I'm not an email person. If you send me an email or whatever, call me. I'm in the field all the time. Give me a call or send me a text. So it depends on, it can be client specific and it can be project specific as well.
Yeah. So you're putting things up front. What I heard at the start of all of it was you're trying to really identify your ideal client profile as well. So you are trying to figure out the businesses that you want to work with and who and why, and you're trying to put something in place where you can work with, I imagine, more high quality businesses, but just businesses that share the same values as you, that from a project perspective, you're going to collaborate. You don't need to continue to educate as things go through to bring everything together. It's just from the outset, we share these values. We're going to communicate. We're all on the same team here. I'll help you, you help me, sort of thing. Is that?
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, there's people, I've been around a long time, and the more visible you are, the more your mistakes are out in front of everybody.
Sure.
There may be people listening that had a negative experience with us. That could have been because of us, or it could have been because it was a bad fit, or it could have just been a crappy project. But it doesn't change. It doesn't change that the goal. And so it may sound arrogant or whatever to some, but no, it's like every business, and EOS is helpful with this. It says, what's your why? What's your core purpose? Enable facades that inspire. Okay, what are your core values? Communication, integrity, collaboration, capability, client conscious. How was that developed with a team? Okay, great. What's next? Ideal client type. Clients in these markets that build these things or maintain these kind of properties that are of this type and that think this way. Hey, you know what? If you're a business that is a volume business and you like to buy the lowest cost engineering, more power to you. That's not us. It never will be us. It never has been us. We just don't like it. We don't work that way. If you're a business that says, I want the maximum ROI for my investment in any supply chain purchase, great. That could be a good fit. Now, how do we work together? Do we hate each other? Do we like each other? Like what? Like it's okay. Not everybody likes me.
Yeah. Hey, look, no one's perfect, and there shouldn't be this big thing about presenting that your business is perfect, because it's not.
Right.
No
No.
one's. Everyone makes mistakes, and we're all
Right.
we're all out here learning. We're all out here trying to, you know, sharpen our tools so that we're better next time. So I totally get that.
Like you and I were talking about golf beforehand. And here's my point to that. Or let's take Mark Cuban one time talking to Dirk Nowitzki, and he said, your job is a lot easier than mine. And Dirk's like, what do you mean? I'm out here. He goes, no, 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 no. He goes, you play a finite game. There's a certain number of minutes. You have a certain role. There's certain metrics involved, and there's a win and a loss. But in business, whether it's Tom Caldicott or me or any of the listener, it's what Seth Godin describes as an infinite game. It never ends. The rules change all the time. They change on every project, and you have to figure out what are the fixed variables and rules of this game that I'm playing, and how can we design that into a win. So, business is not easy, but it doesn't change the fundamentals of try to, I guess, back on this, how do you solve the problem? You never solve the problem. You try to work in such a manner to develop strategies and executable things from a high level or a granular level that improve everybody's life to some reason.
Yeah, yeah. I think once you've solved one problem, it sort of comes up, and there's another problem you got to solve that then changes the original problem that you had. So it's always evolving, isn't it? And I think we've probably all experienced that as business owners. Things change at rapid speed. But I
Yeah.
think all you can do is just have everyone's best interests at heart, continue to do the right things, and yeah, as you said, trying to figure out an ideal client profile isn't easy as well, because those businesses evolve too, and there's new businesses enter the market.
Yeah.
You get a new leader of that business, and suddenly the ethos changes, and
Oh, yeah.
so it really is a moving target. But if you've got some sort of parameters where you're not just trying to bid every single bit of work, but you've got kind of an idea of what you want to be going after and why you want to be working on that stuff, then yeah, the scorecard becomes a lot easier. So
Yeah.
no, that's interesting. I think from a solution perspective, now looking at, I think the answer here is obvious. Increased collaboration, trying to get in early and really share values with, each project stakeholder. What outcome does that have for you first and foremost? So if your solutions work and, you get that collaboration and people really buy into the value that you bring, what outcome does that have for you? And then what do you think it also has as an outcome for them as well? This episode is brought to you by Architectural Glass and Aluminum, otherwise known as AGA. Looking for a trusted glazing partner? AGA has been working alongside industry leaders for over 55 years, providing reliable and high-quality glazing solutions. Specializing in Class A office buildings, hospitals, airports, and higher education, AGA creates custom curtain wall systems tailored to your project needs. With a focus on collaboration and craftsmanship, AGA is here to support your next project. So visit aga-ca.com to learn more about their services and capabilities. That's aga-ca.com. Now back to this week's episode.
Yeah. The outcomes are generally, there's many of them, of course. And I do want to say it's always about the other. So from my perspective, it's not about us. It's not about Wheaton Sprague. It's always about the other. As a company, money is just the exchange medium, but what we're really selling to each other in any category is some form of good and service that brings more value to the buyer, the receiver, than had they done it themselves. So it's always about the other. So I always like to ask the question to the other client, hey, how did we do for you? What could we have done better? But certainly the outcomes are generally less stress, fewer emails late at night, better project performance. In the end, in our space, it's all about coming up with a building product, a total building product for an owner, whatever piece we have of that is a building performs well. But we all have scope limitations. We all have cost limitations. We all have time limitations. So There's limits in, we didn't talk much about it. We probably won't, but that's where I think technology can really help on the volume side of things, keeping the operational side of the business as simple as possible, how you invoice, how you log your time, how you send a change order, all of that thing, like automated as much as possible, because
Without
we
a
want to
doubt.
focus on the value proposition 100% of the time.
Couldn't have put it better myself. Yeah, the AI and automation revolution. Wow, I think it's so underutilized by our industry at the moment as well. I have conversations with business leaders every day, and it's so underutilized. And I think people may be looking at it, maybe not from the wrong perspective, but I think when you talk about AI and automation, I think the replacement of jobs, whatever concern that you have about these AI tools replacing what humans do. For me, the lowest hanging fruit is just the AI and the automation getting all of your best people out of the manual tasks, get them out of there, get them doing the creative stuff and the selling. Every business is in the sales business. They just are, or you don't have a business. So take your best people out of these repetitive manual tasks that these AI tools are coming out like rapid speed. This revolution is quite scary in some instances, but just writing down a simple project workflow and just using put it on paper, grab a highlighter pen and just figure out what tasks can be automated. Where are the repetitions in this project? What do we do twice, 3 times, 4 times? Highlighter, right? How can we automate that? How can we do it so that there's just a trigger that gets automated? So that person has now got, I don't know, an hour a week back. You've bought back, you've been paid in the best currency, time.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can get that, you stack that up through little tools, little pieces of automation. You stack that up over, let's say you've got 5 to 50 employees. You multiply that by the amount of employees you've got. Just think of how much more selling and creative work you could be doing that is actually adding value. And I think if we can get the conversation going on that and open people's minds to it, and just starting with all the low hanging fruit, I think there could be, a pretty quick revolution on that front. I noted you said something earlier when we were talking about the solution. You mentioned something about price as well, where if you want to go with the cheapest bid, lower quality, that's not us, but more power to you. I think there's also don't know what the word is here, preconceived idea that cheapest will always end up being cheapest. And I've had numerous conversations where people, and again, not just talking from the building envelope engineering or even the consulting side, but even sometimes the glazing subcontractor side, you look at the lowest bid and that goes in, project kicks off, whatever, bunch of change orders, racks up the price. Suddenly you've got the lowest bid with the lowest quality that's now cost you more than if you'd gone with a higher quality mid bid that actually forecasted all of these issues that you were going to come across. And that was already baked into their price. So
Yeah.
when you look at that, okay, we're not the cheapest. Well, you're not the cheapest from the outset. When all's said and done, you might be. But that's because you're forecasting.
Yeah, I think that's any business's goal is to be able to tell, within reason to the client, this is your ROI potentially with us. That you'll save some money, you'll save time, you'll save risk. But that sounds like a real. I know you've used a lot of those tools. It sounds like a real passion point for you. But yeah, there was something I wanted to say about that on the cheapest side. Oh yeah, so in design and engineering, whether it's architecture, architects face fee compression all the time. Engineers, consultants, they face fee compression all the time. I'm sure you face fee compression all the time.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
here's
yeah.
here's the thing. There's, let's say, on the delegated design and engineering side, there's no single line item, in my opinion, that has more of a positive or negative impact downstream, so as a predecessor activity, than the value of the design and engineering. Well,
Hmm.
let's say somebody prices, say it's a $10 million glass and glazing job, and somebody prices all engineering for $600,000. Fabs, shops, project management, calcs, system design, everything. And somebody else prices it for three. Which is the better price? Well, the client may not know. Well, it's three. If they can deliver the value for three, then go with 300. But if the 300 will cost you a million, or the 600 will save you a half a million on metal cost or on installation, go with the six. But it's up to somebody like me to try to explain and then to deliver. And if you don't deliver, then you've led that client up the wrong way. But
Yeah,
so
and
you're
it's
right. Like cheapest is not always best. If cheapest gives you the best, like if I can buy a book for $10 on Amazon or $15 at Barnes and Noble, the only reason I'm going to go to Barnes and Noble is if I want to get out of the house and have an experience in a retail facility, and maybe they have coffee there. But if I want the cheapest price, I can get the book from Amazon just the same. So that's my ROI. Like, good, buy it. But if I want an experience, it's not going to be through Amazon Prime. It's going to be through a bookstore.
yeah, yeah, and you do a project with someone, you relate to them, you get on well with them, you can rely on them, you've had a good experience with them. Sometimes you're willing to pay a little bit of a premium, in order to go with the safe bet, the reliable bet. So, and that comes up with good project delivery. So, no, all interesting stuff, John. We're going to go through and move on because I know we're running out of time here. I could sit here and talk all day, quite frankly, but I know, know we've both got jobs to do. So, yeah, we're going to go into a quick fire uh, question round. Nothing work related, so a bit more lighthearted for you.
Okay.
I'll ask you a bunch of questions. I've got 9, maybe 10 questions. Quick fire. So first thing that comes to your mind, and we'll see what we come out with. See what we can learn about John Wheaton, the person, as
No.
well. But don't worry, I'm not going to make you say anything you don't want to. So let's start. Favorite food?
I don't really have a single favorite. I do like single source natural foods. Like I kind of subscribe to when the apostle Peter had his vision, God said, "Don't call anything unclean what God has made." So I'm like, I like beef, I like chicken, I like fish, I like carrots, I like natural yogurt. I tend I mean I probably my biggest vice is dark chocolate. I love
Yeah,
70 or 80% dark chocolate with sea salt. And I
yeah.
have a little square almost every night because it satiates me where I don't feel like I have to go cut a piece of cake or something. So,
Oh, it's my nemesis. That stuff. That lint.
yeah,
It's like lint 78% or something. If I've had something salty, I need the 70% stuff for the kick of the sweetness, just less
yeah,
the dark stuff. And then if I haven't, yeah,
yeah,
it starts out with I'll have a cube and
yeah.
ends up with 4. So
So let me just answer specifically. So I get into routines. So like when I was in second grade, I liked tuna fish sandwiches. My mom made me a tuna fish sandwich, and people will think you're crazy every single day, the whole year. And then in May, one day I came home and I said, "I'm tired of tuna fish." She said, "What else do you want?" I said, "How about egg salad?" And then she made egg salad every day for a year, and I ate
on
that. And then I
repeat.
said, "I'm tired of egg salad." So right now, every day, and it's been this way for years, for the last 3 or 4 years, I have a cup of berries with some natural yogurt, 2 eggs over medium on maybe a fourth of an avocado. I use apple cider, Bragg's unpasteurized apple cider vinegar with water. I mix some collagen
Crikey.
in that. I
Yeah,
have
yeah.
I have some coffee. I limit myself because people will restrain me if I drink too much coffee. So that's kind of my typical breakfast regimen. And when I
Wow.
ate oatmeal every day, my cholesterol was 135, and I eat eggs every day now, and my cholesterol is 135. Hasn't made any difference at all.
Wow. I think we just turned this into a health podcast. That is a proper routine for a breakfast. That is. You've outdone me on that. I've got nothing for you on that, John. Very cool. So, sports team. Who do you follow? Any sport? Who's your team?
I'm a homer. I'm a Cleveland Guardians, Cleveland Cavaliers, and the highly dysfunctional Cleveland Browns. Sorry,
Yeah, yeah.
unfortunately, that's yeah. But they don't ask me to come in and help pick draft choices. So I
Yeah.
hate them and I love them. So
Yeah, good for you. Everyone's got to support them. I'm a Man United fan, so I had the English Premier League. I had my glory days, and it's been a decade of absolute turmoil. So don't worry, you're in good
I
company.
feel that.
So tell me, who's going to win the Masters this year? Golf, one of my passions, one of my loves. Who's going to win the Masters this year?
Whoever has the best caddy and
Yeah,
whoever has the best day. Well, I say that because I don't know how they still do the caddies, but they used to have to pick from the club caddies. And
yeah.
who's the guy that he won two, and he rarely practiced in the off season. People didn't believe him, but he basically listened to the caddy. So I don't know who's going to win the Masters. Could be some dark horse or could be some stud, but
Yeah.
whoever has the best 4 days and the best caddy is going to win.
Caddy's important around Augusta, and hitting a certain shot shape and being really good on the greens is pretty important.
That 16th green, man, that is
Wild. Yeah, there's those.
Well, I still remember Nicklaus's putt, like
Yeah.
when he was in his late 40s, and he hit this putt on 16 that just, you're like, game over.
Unbelievable hole. Yeah, unbelievable hole to watch some golf on. There's been a few hole-in-ones there as well, isn't there, over the years? Yeah, incredible to watch. I saw something a bit harsh on Rory, but obviously with the sports betting, it was something like, I'm sure it was a tweet, and it was like, if you put $50 on Rory to win at 8-1, you'll lose $50.
I don't know. I like Rory. I mean,
I love him. I'm so desperate for him to win that
yeah,
I just don't allow myself to even think it anymore.
yeah.
I can't go there. Cool. So what's your favorite city and why? And I suppose a follow-on question, if you want to answer both at the same time, traveling. Do you travel much? Have you been a traveler over the years?
My travel has been greatly diminished the last 4 or 5 years, but yeah, my wife and I are both trying to travel more, and I traveled a lot more on business pre-COVID, but that's a lot of people's story. What's my favorite city? I don't have a single favorite city. I mean, I always joke that I do like where we live. I always joke it like Northeast Ohio. It's a great place to live. I wouldn't want a vacation there, which is a joke, but we've got a reasonable lifestyle here. I like Boston. I like Seattle. I like parts of Manhattan. I love the energy. I can take it for 3 or 4 days.
Yeah, and then remove
I like
yourself.
I like Raleigh area. My son lives in that area, and some of the cities in Southwest Florida are great. Yeah, I don't have any. There's cities I don't want to go to, but I've had good experiences in all those cities.
Yeah, nice. Good for you. And tell me a little bit about your favorite book or movie. Go with either. You choose.
I mean, my favorite book of all time is the Bible, but my actual, a book written by people. I loved The Boys in the Boat. That was a great book. I couldn't watch the movie at The Boys in the Boat about the crewing team in the 30s or 40s, yeah, late 30s with the U.S. Yeah, The Boys in the Boat. It's an old one, but I really loved Into Thin Air by Krakauer. John Krakauer is a great author. I recently reread Call of the Wild and White Fang by Jack London. And Jack London's prose is just incredible. They're considered books for like high schoolers, but the prose is just spellbinding to me. And I love writing and I love to write. So the detail, it just sucked me right in.
You're
So those
lost
just
in
a
it.
few things. Favorite movie? I just recently watched for about the 5th time Groundhog Day with Bill Murray. Just
Yeah,
cracks me up every
yeah.
time. And right now, for my complete like mental break, I've read, okay, so I'm shallow. I've read almost all the Jack Reacher books from Lee
Nice.
Child. So I'm
Yeah.
watching season 3 of Reacher. I just started in.
There you go.
I like that series.
Disconnect from reality sort of stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that. What's the best advice you've ever received, John?
Wow.
Yeah, that's
Well,
that's the big one.
yeah. What good is it for a person to gain the whole world and forfeit their soul?
Interesting.
Focus on, we have this life to live, and then we have the next reality to enter into. And so don't sell your soul for the wrong things.
Absolutely. Wise words. If you could have dinner with any historical figure, who would it be and why?
Well, that would be Jesus of Nazareth, Jesus the carpenter, the Jesus who died on the cross and again, I love the fact that, you know, Jesus, you know, the criticism from the religious leaders was he's dining with sinners and tax collectors and publicans, like
Yeah.
just like me. Okay,
Yeah.
I want to. Oh, he turned water into wine at a wedding. I like that guy. I want
Yeah.
to have dinner. Like, I would love to know, what did he talk about around it. Like, some of it's recorded, but like, I want to be in that spot and feel that tension and have dinner. What's the famous thing is the Last Supper. You know, he's like, hey, I'm gonna, and you know, it's all around food and around dinner. So yeah, that would be it.
Love it. What's the number one thing on your bucket list?
Well, number one thing on my bucket list, um, yeah, my wife and I, number one thing on my bucket list isn't a specific thing, but it
Okay.
is to start working more at creating experiences in relationships, traveling to places we haven't been to,
Yeah.
and going back to places that we've loved that help rejuvenate us.
Mm.
So, yeah, the bucket list is to have more, you mentioned time earlier, to have more freedom of time, freedom of purpose, freedom of relationship, freedom of money, and to knock off those things, like to go to Zion and Bryce and Grand Canyon, to go. I've been to Seattle 20 times. I still haven't been to Mount Rainier, to go back to the Dingle Peninsula in Ireland, to get over to the UK. So a bunch of things.
Yeah. Experiences. Yeah. They're the material things are what they are, aren't they? But, you know, having that once in a lifetime experience or even a repeated experience that you just get so much more from. Yeah. Really interesting. Final question. Bit of a deep one here that we can end on. Giving you the I've given you the softballs. Now comes the fast one. If I could give you a mulligan on any decision you've ever made, what would you choose?
So mulligan meaning, yeah, just pick it up. You're good.
Mulligan means you get a redo. You get a
Get a
redo.
redo.
So yeah, that would be a gimme. So a mulligan would be you can do it. You can have a redo on any decision you've ever made.
Yeah, boy. So professionally, I'll professionally, any decision I've ever made. I guess it's a combined decision to focus less on scale and more on operational excellence early on. So, you know, I like to sell and develop and grow. And if I had to go back and like do it over again, I would be kinder and gentler, and I would focus more on a little less on growth and a little more on operational excellence within that.
Takes a lot of self-awareness to come up with that answer, I think, and also
Yeah.
the operational excellence sort of gives you eventually should hopefully give you the scale, shouldn't it? So yeah, I
Yeah.
can see.
And then on the personal side, although it relates to both, I would have chosen to start working with a professional coach earlier, but I did that. So I have a personal professional coach, but let's just say what it is: counselor,
Yeah.
advisor.
Same person for both areas of your life?
So I started in counseling quite a while ago, and that counselor said, "You know what? I think you may be better off with my brother, who's a PhD counselor, because he focuses on people more like you who own businesses and who are entrepreneurially focused, and how to balance that with life and family." And it's been profound learning how to develop emotional tools and awarenesses. And it is a very, very deep well of many, many layers, and it's very tangible. So I would have started sooner. I would have been less proud.
Wow.
I'm
Yeah.
glad I did what I did, but it's profoundly impactful.
Wow. Yeah, it takes a lot of vulnerability to be able to do that. So more power to you. That's as you know, as you said, it's from a personal and professional standpoint. I imagine it's just that offload and perspective, and I know certainly for me anyway. You get your head so into the weeds of things that sometimes you just need pulling out of them. 30,000-foot view. And things aren't as bad as you think, and you've come a lot further than you really realize without someone being able to just help you take that step back. So
Yeah, and
no,
it's just like having an objective person. You build a relationship, but it's like somebody say, "No, I really think you're wrong about that. I think your partner was right, or your wife was correct, or
mm.
actually, no, good job on that. You did a good job." And you're like, "What, really?" Or you need a category for this. What does that mean?
Yeah,
So those are all good things. Anyway, there's probably a lot of answers I could give, but
yeah.
those come to mind.
They were great. No, I really appreciate you being a gentleman, John. And I know we went over time a little bit there, but yeah, keep doing what you're doing. I really appreciate you setting aside an hour to talk to me here. I think we could have probably done it all day, but we'll finish there. And yeah, thanks a lot for joining me.
It's been a pleasure, and I appreciate what you do too, Tom.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Guys, that's it for this week's episode of the Facade Focus podcast, presented by me, Tom Caldicott, founder and CEO of Unity Search, where I help glass and metal businesses hire the best talent and build their brand on LinkedIn. Now, I've worked across Asia, the Middle East, Europe, and North America, and I'm on a mission to help connect each facade community to give you the tools to learn and grow. Now, I'm a big believer in sharing knowledge and provoking conversation, so I hope you take something valuable from each episode that gets you thinking about how you can be better tomorrow. Remember to like and subscribe the video on YouTube and give us a 5-star rating on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. It really helps us reach more people to achieve our goal of connecting the global facade industry. Tune in again for next week's episode, and I'll see you all there.